2, and we are recording with Dr. Roger Hodkinson, who is channeling the energy of the founding fathers fighting for freedom up in Ottawa. But Dr. Hodkinson, you've been on here enough times now that I think people know who you are. So why don't we just jump right into it, because we have a limited amount of time. What is going on right now? I see the tweets every day with you and Dr. Alexander, and it gets me going. I love it. I get goosebumps. I start screaming about America. What's going on right now? And because I have you for a limited amount of time, I'm going to try to shut my mouth and let you take it away.
This sleepy little place called Canada Ware is leading the world in the retake of democratic freedoms, tradition, culture, religion. We're leading the world because when you poke the Canadian bear, watch out.
So what is going on right now? It's been around the beginning of this month is when I first interviewed the truckers from Ottawa. They were at the border. They were at the border. They were going to Ottawa, I believe. And I know right now, I think Trudeau is bringing in, for all future listeners, today is Sunday, February 13th, 2022. I believe Trudeau is bringing in American police services, which look more like paramilitary. I know Canadian veterans are getting in between the police and the protesters. Is that where does this go? What can you tell me from being there? Because I can only see things through the lens of the media. What do you see with your own eyes there?
It's going straight up. When I arrived here 2 weeks ago, I was amazed at the density of traffic, the horns that were honking, the children on the streets. We had to get out of our taxi 10 blocks away from our hotel, trundling our suitcases in the snow. The outpouring of patriotism is unheard of in Canada. The number of flags exceed any Canada Day in history. There's a massive, massive support for what's going on here, not just in Ottawa, but across the entire country and growing around the world. We're seeing a convoy coming up from the States, one from Alaska. We're seeing farm tractors about to arrive in Ottawa from the Toronto area. So it's unstoppable, Tommy. They can do what they want, but it's like that kid's game of whack-a-mole. You bang one down and two more pop up. So this is something that we've actually already won. It's just that a certain person with fancy socks doesn't know it yet. The whole country is hermetically sealed, essentially. All border crossings, not just the one across that bridge between Detroit and Ontario. All border crossings, with the singular exception of that one, all border crossings are hermetically sealed. There is no traffic going north-south. We have a flotilla of boats in Halifax Harbour, and the native Indian community, the indigenous community, have their own plans, as yet not revealed. So this is unstoppable. Clearly, the rest of the world is listening and following our example, and it's just wonderful to see. You must understand, of course, I'm sure many of your followers appreciate the domino effect that's going on internationally, with countries all folding their mandates, and indeed within Canada, where these things are run provincially. You know, we have Alberta, Saskatchewan, and to a certain extent Ontario, rolling things back. Certainly the vaccine passports, that absurd concept. The energy here is indescribable. The resolve is totally solid. These truckers are going nowhere. They are winning this game, not just for Canada, but they're leading the world in the retake of these freedoms.
What would be the catalyst for them wrapping up and going home? Like what does the government have to do? And I don't mean that in terms of like, how does the government lay down force? I mean, what are the demands? Is it just roll back all mandates, roll back all passports requirements, and then just truly back to normal?
Stop all the mandates, stop the vaccination program. Total, complete stop. Returning to a time that I call BC, which does not stand for British Columbia, stands for before COVID. We want a return to the time of before COVID, when we could hug our grandchildren, we could hold the hand of a dying parent, when our children got a normal education. That's the time that we wish to return to as the result of having won this battle, but it is simply a battle. Beyond this win will be a 20-year slog to retake institutions that have become totally infiltrated by wokeism. And that includes multinational corporations in the C-suites. It includes electronic media, politics, and the like. So this is it's going to be a wonderful win when it's acknowledged, but it's the start of a slog, and people should be under no misunderstanding about this. The wokeism that's entrenched at every level of society, that's entrenched in the brains of judges and so on, they're not going to change overnight. No, that's going to be a major ongoing war.
Yeah.
But to win the first battle is obviously very significant.
Yeah, Dr. Pam Popper said that on this podcast last week, that, you know, and there's a great tweet I saw, and it was the war's not over. Beating COVID was just a battle, but what that battle did do was wake a lot of people up to the fact that we're in a war. And it is. I mean, as these governments around the world collude with corporations, the definition of fascism, and squash the public uprisings, which I do believe the left traditionally would champion, right? Workers of the world unite. It is a long-term war, and it's a war to, if I can just put it, you know, in my French, it's a war to just leave us the fuck alone. It's really it. It's not. I don't want to project my own desires on you. I don't want you to conform to me. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And it's COVID was the catalyst for it, but it extends so much deeper than it is. It's wokeism. It's political correctness. It's governments saying yes, queen, and stunning and brave as cities burn in 2020, and then when a bunch of Canadians get together and hold hands in the street, they send in the Gestapo. Like we're we are in clown world, like honk honk, and there's more than one meaning there. But that is what it means. It's not just going back to November 2019. That's the beginning.
No, I view COVID as a very fortunate experience.
100%. 100%.
I'm not being callous when I say that. People did die. That's
Sure.
tragic. Every single death is tragic.
Sure.
I'm a physician. But we needed the point of the spear sticking at us. It's not good enough to simply ramble on about loss of freedoms and people's eyes glaze over and
Yeah.
so what? You know,
Yeah. What else is new?
we're living with it. But this is forced a major change in the way institutions are governed and the way politics operates. And some of it initially, some of the consequences of this, until we retake the center, so to speak, are going to be difficult to live with. In particular, given the clout of the regulatory bodies in medicine, threatening physicians with loss of income, loss of position, claiming that we're spreading misinformation, etc., and denying patients information upon which they can make an informed consent. Because of course you can't make an informed consent if you've been intentionally denied information upon which to base it.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern for medicine is this. Your patients, our patients are not going to trust us anymore because we lied on a big one for 2 years with all kinds of horrible personal consequences. To see traditional ethics of first do no harm and informed consent totally trashed by government, to the extent that I'm saying publicly now, just to get people's attention. Government is now your doctor. Let that sink in for a minute. Government is now your doctor. That's not the way we wanted it to be, but it's the way government have forced it. Physicians have been compliant, sadly. Way too many have complied without wanting to risk their income and their status, their positions. That will rebound on medicine. You earn trust and reputation over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
You lose it like that. And that is tragic for medicine, because medicine was supposed to be the ultimate source of truth and honesty and professionalism in society. Not politicians, not the media, not lawyers. The church perhaps as well, I should include in that. But the church, of course, have been nowhere to be found. Occasional examples of brave pastors standing up from evangelical churches. But the real problem with the church's position over the last 2 years is really this. If the churches, the traditional churches with the hierarchy, had collectively faced off against government, it would have been no contest. Every time the church squares off against government in a coordinated issue, the church always wins, hands down. The church was nowhere to be found. The major leaders of the church in just about all the major denominations, they were hiding behind their pulpits, not representing their flock. So they are also culpable so far as this mess is concerned, not just physicians and the media and politicians, but the church in particular. It's tragic that they didn't stand up for their flock when they were needed. Instead, they went into hiding, very much like the Prime Minister of Canada initially went into hiding under his bed, probably.
It's, it's kind of like those those sad experiences. I don't know if you've ever if it gone to like a dog pound or something, or a friend has adopted a dog that was abused, and you go up and you kind of put your hand towards it in the back. It's the saddest thing in the world, but with with love and with very slow commitment, the dog will slowly start to open up as it realizes you're just there to be its buddy, and it's the most beautiful flowering. And it's not the dog's fault, but it's so much. You have to do so much work just to get it back to baseline, just get it back to zero, right? You adopt a puppy, start playing with it, it loves you immediately. It takes so much work to just get it back to be out of the red, that I think that's one of the kind of bigger tragedies we're going to see, is that it's the trust in the physician. It's the trust in the white coat doctor, who the vast majority of which truly do have your best interests in mind. And it was squandered. That trust was squandered for a generation, if not more, by people who didn't build it up. It's been built up over decades, probably centuries.
And when children start dying from this clot shot, as I call it, when children start dying, I don't think we're prepared for the revulsion that will follow from society. It's quite unpredictable as to how things are actually going to end up when that brutal reality sinks in. Because children, of course, are not dying of COVID. They never have, unless they were terribly sick with something else. And there's no need for this vaccination for children. And instead, they're being subjected to all the risks, serious risks, that most of which we haven't even quantified, because this stuff came to market so quickly. It wasn't possible to do the typical 5 to 10 year clinical trial in order to identify the complications. because, as you might have heard me say, we do clinical trials essentially because we don't know what we don't know. We're looking for the unexpected, the unpredictable. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So children are taking the brunt of this. Of course, they've already been traumatized by having to wear masks in school, with all the consequences that are now getting quantified in terms of the consequence of losing 2 years of education. It's had a significant measurable effect on IQ. Children have been denied appreciating nonverbal communication, smiles, hugs. They've been made suspicious of other adults. These are psychological traumas that will last them lifelong. But of course, it's not finished even at that. They're now going to have to pay off the national debt that's been massively increased for the rest of their lives. And that doesn't happen by magic. It means that the standard of living will drop for individuals. There will be reduced quality of education, of healthcare, and so on. So children have borne the brunt for 2 years, and it will extend indefinitely. We don't even know, for example, the effect on fertility of girls. We do know that rat ovaries were selectively attacked in animal studies that were not investigated in terms of the impact on women and children. You see the gravity of this, Tommy?
Yeah.
Stuff that we just don't know. It's not just what we're seeing now, the VAERS data and the incredible deaths. You know, it's not just that. It's the huge unknown for the future. You know, the emergence of cancer that was previously under control, the possibility that we may be facing a tsunami of dementia and heart failure 20 years from now because of the random death of cells in our brain and our heart, which can't regenerate. We do know that those deaths that those cells are dying. That represents the reserve for people that get older to fend off the onset of those diseases which are often terminal, but they may be accelerated by a decade or two. We just don't know. And so the seriousness of these potential long-term complications is really, it's a ghastly thought.
And by the time a lot of those complications become apparent over the next years and decades, most people responsible for this will be dead or towards the end of their lives.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. And I think looking at the big picture again, in terms of where we're going with all of this, the significance of this upwelling of patriotism and support for democratic values, it is so critical that it succeeds, not just in this battle, but in the war, because we are being observed, we're being watched, particularly, as I said before in your podcast, by China. China, we are at undeclared war with China.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking at this as a test of our resolve.
Mm-hmm.
That's how critical it is, because there are two curves that are crossing. One curve is going down, and that's the demise of democracy, as you see in Europe, as we see currently in the States, as we're certainly seeing in Canada and Australia. The demise of democracy it's going down. And then there's another curve that's going up, and that's called the Chinese appetite for expansion and eventually world domination. Now, I'd like to think that we could control the curve going down, but I must say my hope is not that great. What we can be sure of is that the Chinese curve is going up, and it will be at their calling, the timing of when they take action to take advantage of our weakness. And we're getting weaker and they're getting stronger. And it contravenes, that principle of medieval warfare. You don't feed your enemy. We should be buying nothing from China. We should be putting an economic stranglehold around them to bring them to their knees, perhaps to foment internal dissent. But you don't feed your enemy, especially when they declared war on you, essentially, by their public statements.
Yeah.
So, without wishing to dwell too much on it, this could be called Magna Carta II. The barons at Runnymede didn't know if they were going to leave that meeting alive. They did, and they transformed history. Democracy started to then blossom. And we've won some insults and assaults on it from Russia and from Nazi Germany. We won those major conflicts in the preservation of democracy, but it's a very fragile thing. And if our resolve is as a citizenry, if our resolve across the West is not to defend those freedoms when government take them away from us, that's the slippery slope into a socialist dystopia that the Chinese are loving. They're thinking to themselves, the Confucius Institutes and so on, all the other infiltrations that have taken place.
All those things Biden reopened that Trump had shut down.
We may not even need to fire a shot. They're killing themselves. We'll just walk in.
Episode 161 of this podcast, Brigadier General Robert Spalding, his book Stealth War, about China's secret war on us. They're winning a war that we don't even know is being fought.
It's a stealth attack.
Yeah,
it's a stealth attack.
Brilliant. Yeah, you have to respect it. It's brilliant. But
and of course, Davos and the Great Resetters are in lockstep with them. The general operating principle for the Great Resetters is control.
Yeah,
which is not that different really from what's going on in China.
But like you're saying with the two curves, despite all the evidence to the contrary, I am still optimistic because I'm more optimistic than I was. I mean, a year ago, if you had gone back to our first episode, April of last year, we were talking about these same things. We're talking about China, talking about the decline of the West, and how it seemed like it was only plummeting further and faster. It has turned out. It has turned out, although it's still shitty, it has become wildly better in a year in terms of people kind of finding their balls and realizing that there's nowhere else to defect to. This is the last stand, and doing it peacefully, but doing it passionately and waking up to it. And it's courage is contagious. All the other quotes, it costs nothing to be the second patriot, but you're seeing more people jump on it. You have people that push it forward, an Aaron Rodgers, a Joe Rogan, a Dr. Hodkinson, a Peter McCullough, but it's now accelerating. It's becoming easier to talk about it. The numbers are growing. And so like when you charge an enemy strong point with 10,000 other soldiers, you're less likely to die. So you're more willing to go. I am confident that we will rise to the occasion. I really am.
Providing you have a leader that is prepared to put his standard in the ground and declare his support for all of those. One of my biggest concerns about democracy is if Trump does not win in 24 and the Democrats get in for reasons that I'll explain in a minute, it's a terrible time for the world because you are the bastion of freedom. And here's my deep, deep concern, and I do hope that the past president of the United States is listening to your podcast secretly when he's not tweeting.
He's commenting. He's commenting from Mar-a-Lago. Great podcast, Hodkinson.
Yeah, Mr. Trump, this is a message for you, and I do want you to focus on what I'm saying. It sounds impudent of me, but I'm going to say it anyway. You lost the last election because of COVID. The Democrats maliciously manipulated absentee ballots under the guise of it being unsafe to vote in person. And that opened the floodgates for all the manipulation of the ballots that we're also well aware of. If you're not very careful, you will lose the next election because the Democrats are going to lay at your feet all the terrible consequences of the reaction to COVID, the mandates, and the horror show of children dying from the vaccination. I would say to you, Mr. Trump, it's a huge mistake to show bravado here, to demonstrate to the world that you are getting a booster shot. Because what you should be doing, in my humble opinion, is to put your standard in the ground now and fire, euphemistically, Fauci on air, directly aiming at him as the cause for everything that happened. You were duped, Mr. Trump. You were lied to by Fauci. He wanted glory, and you were seen as the mechanism for him achieving it. So I'm pleading with you, for the sake of the democratic, for the sake of democracy globally, not just in the States, to put your standard in the ground and say with great gravitas and contriteness, I was wrong. I'm deeply apologetic for the terrible consequences of what happened. It was all due to this man over here that fed me lies during my entire presidency. If he did that, in my opinion, his popularity would soar. Contriteness in politics is unheard of. If he doesn't do that, when the likes of Alex Berenson and co write the definitive autopsy of this last 2 years, it will be absolutely devastating. In lay language, thin booklet, making people aware of how they've been duped and lied to, with huge personal consequences, whether physical, psychological, or financial. That is a very worrying prospect. Thank you, Mr. Trump. I do hope you'll consider what I've said.
I think that as important it is for him to get in, I'm also more of the mindset that nobody's coming. And I think that's a good thing. You know, no one's gonna, I can't bank on a retweet from Joe Rogan to get my podcast off the ground. You got to go, no one's coming. Pick up the phone and start calling guests. Put out better episodes. Get a better camera. And if something comes along, and it does, and I do get like a Rogan retweet, hey, hell yeah. So as much as I do think that Trump will put up a fight, I'm not gonna bank on him. And I agree with everything you just said. Full disclosure, as you and I are 100% in alignment with each other. I'm not gonna bank on a savior. I'm gonna bank on doing what I can do. I'm gonna run myself exhausted doing 15 podcasts every 5 days with doctors talking about COVID, doing impromptu podcasts, doing everything I can to get the message out there, to document the data, and to document really, I view a lot of these doctors I interview, I view them as testimonies that, I mean, they're on Zoom. They have a day, month, year, hour, minute, second clock on the bottom. There's the timestamp is there. I'm distributing them to multiple. The point is, I look at someone like a Joe Kent, former Green Beret, who's running for Congress out of Washington State. Mike Collins, second generation trucker, who's running for Congress out of Georgia. Mike Durant, everyone knows Black Hawk Down, the movie, running for Senate out of Alabama. I believe Brian Tyson, Dr. Fareed's medical partner, is now running for, I think he just announced he's running for Senate. There are so many people who have been endorsed by Trump and who are standing up, and they're sharpening the claws and they're going in for the kill. Mm-hmm. As great and as helpful, again, like a Joe Rogan retweet, as great and as helpful as a Trump win would be in 2024, I keep the mindset that no one's coming to save us. So what can we do, and how can we do it to the best of our abilities?
Well, history is replete with
I mean, you need a leader. I get it.
people that bubble up at the last minute to be the savior.
Sure.
Churchill is obviously the classic example, but there are others. And perhaps you're right, Tommy. That's a reason for hope, because those events have happened historically. And let's just hope that someone does emerge with those leadership skills at a time of great crisis for democracy, and becomes the standard bearer for Magna Carta 2. Magna Carta 2. Yes, we can retake our freedoms, but we need a leader commensurate with the scale of the problem.
Sure. I mean, I would point to Joe Kent. If Joe Kent gets into Congress, I think it's a matter of years before he runs for president. The dude looks like a mixture of JFK and a GI Joe. It's insane. Like it's. But I do. One thing I always think of is a guy I've had on here a million times, Dale Comstock, youngest ever member of Delta Force, worked with the CIA. I mean, real life, like James Bond shit. And he talks about how they would go on like black operations in the Middle East to the point where it's like it's just him and he's training local Afghanis. And he would always say that he would never cease to be surprised that these guys who teeth are falling out, they've never seen running water in their lives, they're wearing flip-flops, they don't know how to hold a gun. When the bullets start flying, most of them shit their pants. But he goes, like clockwork, there's always a percentage that just something deep in the brain flips and they become leaders. They start barking out orders. They start becoming selfless. Again, he's like, it's comical. You have guys in flip-flops who don't know that New York City exists, but there's something in the mind. They turn into leaders. They grow balls and they just become men in a moment. Now, that is not at all what we're doing. I don't mean to compare ourselves to those guys, but to me, the analogy, it works.
You used a word there that I'll repeat in a different context. These truckers have gonads bigger than their trucks.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. People just rise up.
They're going nowhere.
Yeah.
Until this matter is settled to their satisfaction, which means simply take no prisoners, total capitulation, no negotiation. You've got to drop everything and return us to the time of BC, before COVID. Immediately. No hand-wringing, no planning. I mean, this is the absurd thing that's going on, at least in Canada. These premiers of various provinces are planning to lift the restrictions.
Oh, yeah. Shut up. Just do it. Just do it.
Break. Planning to lift the restrictions. They should be gone immediately. Not just because they're unjust and wrong and dangerous, but because children are going to die. Pregnant women are going to be are being subjected to experimental products that could have horrible consequences, because we just don't know. So the whole thing should be shut down. No mandates, no vaccines, no testing anywhere for any reason other than when you go to hospital and you look like you've got COVID, and they do a test in that context to show that indeed you do. But then they need to be treated with effective early treatment as per the McCullough protocol, and vitamin D. And elderly people in nursing homes, remember, they are still not getting a daily supplement of vitamin D in order to minimize the risk of getting Omicron and the potential complications of it. So none of that is happening even now, 2 years into the game.
I mean, I've been taking since August every day. I've been taking NAC, turmeric, quercetin, vitamin D, zinc, and everything else McCall told me to take. I got Omicron, I think last week or the week before. Still went to the gym every day. Still did like 10 podcasts in 5 days. And but back to the people rising up, to me, a perfect example of that, the unexpected leaders, is Canada. I mean, like the meme about Canadians is that they're too nice. And here they are going full George Washington, powdered wig, crossing the Delaware. And it's just like, huh? Canada? You know, we always, it's going to be America or it's going to be Russia.
And
Strong
hey,
Russia.
wait a minute. It's not just Canada. It started in Alberta, where I live,
Yeah.
in the West.
That,
That's where it started.
well, that's what I mean. Is
It's in Alberta, where
it's
I live.
Canada. It's Canada. And it's like, yeah.
Canada where?
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's the Canadians found their nuts. Like not us, not strong Russia. Like no, Canada.
There's a disease that's unique to Canadians
Maple syrup and geese. Yeah.
and that disease is called the terminal niceness syndrome.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like that's the meme, right? Sorry about you. Don't you know? But they're the ones that are like fucking tally ho, like we ride at dawn.
But don't poke the bear. Listen, before we close,
Sure.
I'm not sure when I'm going to have to slip away for a speech at the rally here. I do want all your listeners to be aware that the latest information on prophylaxis, prevention of COVID, and in fact, treatment of early symptoms, one of the best things to do, this isn't quackery, well supported in science. One of the best things to do is to get a bottle of iodine from your pharmacy.
Mhm.
It's marketed under the name of betadine. And you make a 10-to-1 dilution of it. You get a little dropper in a separate bottle, and you take 9 drops of water and 1 drop of iodine. You mix it up. Then you lie down and you ask your spouse or partner to put 4 drops as you're lying down with your head back, 4 drops in each nostril. You'll feel it trickling down to the back of your throat, and you can even gargle with it if you wish. Solid evidence of enormous benefit in terms of preventing and reducing the symptoms of upper respiratory viral infections. So, it's interesting, isn't it, how something as simple as that it's being used by ENT surgeons and dentists for decades, finally hits mainstream.
What? So you mean that there's simple, cheap, effective, and proven ways to treat this? You're saying that we don't need an unproven mRNA vaccine? Roger, that sounds like misinformation.
That's why I'm being attacked by the College of American Pathologists for spreading misinformation.
They're all demons. They're all demons. Who gives a shit?
I looked them straight in the eyes and told them they should be ashamed of themselves.
I think a lot of them do know. I think a lot of them do know what they're doing is wrong.
I hope they were squirming in their skin. Well, they picked on the wrong guy. I said, "You're trying to intimidate me, aren't you?" They said, "Oh, no, no, oh, no." I said, "Yes, you are. And you know damn well you are."
Yeah. And I know that that you're gonna have to be running any moment now. So one thing I do want to bring up is, I think it was in 1999 or 2000, the World Trade Organization protests in Seattle. They were peaceful, and the way they got them broken up was they had undercover cops go in and start violence and start shattering windows as justifications. Agent provocateurs, love them or hate them. Alex Jones documents it, and he documented it well.
Yeah.
That's my concern for what's going on right now. Someone's gonna infiltrate. Some government agent provocateurs will infiltrate, and the only way to fight that is to have phones out, recording everywhere and everything, because there's going to be someone in all black who throws a trash can through a window and punches a kid, and that's going to justify the tanks. That's my concern.
That's being extremely carefully monitored by the truckers. You got to understand, Tommy, for everyone listening, I've visited one of the peripheral locations where the overflow, you might say, of the trucks are located, because they couldn't all fit in downtown Ottawa. The logistics behind this, it's military scale. All right.
Jeez.
It's amazing. You know, the supply chain for this, the diesel, the medical supplies, the portable toilets, even saunas at one location, right? in this intense cold and wind. It's being run extraordinarily well. Everyone is so tuned into the media and the importance of starting that dialogue with government. Just this very morning, I was at a pancake flipping breakfast with the leader of one of the political parties in Canada, Max Bernier, from the People's Party of Canada, a wonderful man. So there's a lot of action here at multiple levels. There's stuff going on. You always maintain communication with your enemy through offshore locations, whatever. There's communications going on, but sooner or later, this prime minister, we've already lost, of course, for everyone to understand, we've already seen the departure of the head of the opposition, Mr. O'Toole, and the way politics actually operates, as opposed to how people think it operates in terms of voting and congressional representatives and MPs in Canada. That's not how our politics actually operates. They're doing polling, and if they're sensing that there's a movement that's looking dangerous, there's going to be a tap on the shoulder. Sorry, boy, you're out.
Yeah, no. There are internal factions who care less about COVID and more about getting their turn at the helm. They're going, hey, I just got to ride this trucker wave.
The Liberal Party of Canada thinks of itself as being the ruling party of Canada for eternity. They consider the levers of power to be critical. That's why they put up someone who was not exactly intellectually suitable for the job, but he had the right name, he had curly locks, he was good looking, and they made the calculation that he would carry the day, and indeed he did. But regardless of the name and the looks, if you're losing control, it's going to be next, please. That may be, of course, exactly the same kind of policy as the predecessor, but that doesn't really matter so much as chalking up a big win for democracy.
Yeah. And to further emphasize, makes me think of in 1933 when the bonus army, all the World War I veterans who were still cheated out of their bonuses, all gathered in DC, and they were led by their former general Smedley Butler. It's a great book called The Plot to Seize the White House by Jules Archer, I think. Jules Archer or Ken Matting. One of them's the narrator, one of them's the author. But in the opening chapter, Smedley Butler says to the men, and they're all out there, they're all occupying it, they're in tents, there's tens of thousands of them, and he's there having breakfast with them, giving speeches. But one thing he always points to is, and this is the most decorated Marine in U.S. history, a guy who's just has paved streets with blood and guts. He said, do not slip into violence or you will immediately lose the support of this entire nation.
Right.
To me, that is the biggest take home. Is some people look at it like, oh, that's weak shit, dude. No, look throughout history. These guys aren't stupid. You lose the public. Right now, you guys have the heart of the world behind you. If it turns into violence, you're going to lose it immediately. And that's my biggest concern is.
No, despite the anger that's out there, which is palpable, it's very, very clear that these truckers are aware of that risk.
Yeah.
They're being told if there are arrests to simply sit down, be quiet, say nothing, don't get confrontational.
Yeah.
Simply follow the order of the policeman that's arresting you. And we expect that, of course, hasn't happened yet. But if that is the solution that they're going to find, then then peaceful arrest is essential because of the game of whack-a-mole. You
Mhm.
shut down this, and two more appear elsewhere. It's
Yeah.
that kind of game is uncontrollable,
Yeah.
and it will continue until there's total capitulation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's again, and like I have no concerns about the actual truckers and farmers and cowboys becoming violent. They're not. You can see what it is. It's a peaceful occupation. And I know I've said it 10 times. My concern is an agent provocateur, someone going in there to start shit. And that's really the only way to combat that is just cameras everywhere. It's really the only way. It's these people are good at it. These intelligence agencies, this is their bread and butter. They know how to do it. You're not going up against an idiot like me. You're going up against a Tom Brady or a Michael Jordan. This is the game they play. The only way to capture it, or the only way to stop it, is to capture it on camera. That's
Believe
it.
me, there are
I
tens
just
of
I just
thousands
want to
of
make
cameras
sure
out there.
because
Tens of thousands of cameras out there.
Could-
And I can't, my face has been recognized, and I can't walk on the street beyond the rally.
Well, I know that people send me
Without being-
screenshots every day. They go, "Is that Roger?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. That's him."
And people just want to shake my hand and have a photograph taken, and it's so heartening,
Yeah.
that the penetration from the alternative media has been that effective, that even that my face with all kinds of clothing on, that my face is recognized. So we are achieving something, Tommy, and you're an important part of that. So thank you so much for what you do.
Of course, it's a blast. What I was gonna say is, I'm friends with the guys that the U.S. government sends to go do this in other nations.
Yeah.
So I know it's possible. They're the ones that tell me. They're like, "Hey, guy, I'm Tommy. I'm telling you what's going to happen in Ottawa." So that's
Right.
and what they say is, they're too good at it. There's no way to stop it. The only way you can help it is just to record everything, so that in a week or a month or a year later, you can draw back and go, "Who's that guy? What?" That's the only way to stop it. So that's not from me. That's from my special forces friends who are like, "Hey, just little tip."
Well,
And
good advice.
no, I remember them. You want to know how smart they are? I remember them telling me that like 2 weeks before January 6th. That I can tell you exactly what's going to happen.
Well, we do have a significant security detail made up of ex-army, ex-police, ex-RCMP officers who are specifically trained in how to protect individuals.
Yeah.
So they are always around us.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not disseminated in the crowd, but within the crowd there are so many cameras you wouldn't believe.
Good. Well, that's really all you can do. With that, Roger, Dr. Hodkinson,
Yes.
excuse me, I'm getting too informal with you.
That's all right.
Let's wrap this one up. I know you got a speech to give in 20 minutes, and I will upload this immediately. If you could please give it to Dr. Alexander and have him tweet it, I should have it up within like 30 minutes.
Yeah, he's brilliant at that.
I know he is. Dr. Alexander, that badass. Shout out, Dr. Alexander. Dr. Roger Hodkinson, doing the Lord's work. Thank you, sir. Stay peaceful, everybody. Don't do anything stupid. Don't give him a reason. God bless. Do the right thing. You know what the right thing is in your heart. You don't need to find you don't need a professor to tell you it. You know what the right thing is. Follow your heart. Dr. Roger Hodkinson, thank you.